So I want you to kind of picture a scenario here. It's a Tuesday night, right? And you are feeling just highly motivated, and you finally decided to learn that new skill.
Oh, I know exactly where this is going.
Right. I mean, maybe it's a piece of project management software for work. Maybe it's, Python coding or even digital marketing. So you go ahead and buy the highly rated online course.
Naturally. You make the investment.
Exactly. You sit down, you watch the first hour of crisp, high-definition video. You are taking pristine notes, and then you hit a tiny technical snag.
The dreaded roadblock.
Yeah. Like a menu button just isn't where the video said it would be.
Yeah.
Or a file simply refuses to export. So you spend 45 minutes frantically Googling the error code, you get increasingly frustrated, you slam your laptop shut, and you completely abandon the whole endeavor.
Yeah.
Be honest, how many half-finished online courses are currently sitting in your digital graveyard?
Well, it is a remarkably common phenomenon. I mean, we enter these learning environments with incredible momentum, assuming the path is just going to be linear.
Right, like step A to step B.
Exactly. Yet, it is almost always the smallest point of unforeseen friction that completely derails our motivation. We don't quit because the broad concepts are too difficult, We quit because we get stuck on a granular detail and have no mechanism to move past it.
And that specific point of friction, and honestly how to permanently eliminate it, is exactly what we are exploring today. So welcome to this deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are looking at a single, incredibly fascinating source. It's this personal, story-driven marketing letter written by a man named Murty B.V.N.S. And it details the whole philosophy behind his organization, the Antaryami VA Academy, and their virtual assistant course.
Yeah, and on the surface, spending an entire deep dive analyzing a marketing letter for a virtual assistant course might seem unusually niche.
Random, right?
Very. But looking closely at this document reveals something much more profound than just an advertisement. I mean, it functions as a masterclass in behavioral psychology and pedagogical design.
It really does. We are going to deconstruct this letter because it reveals the hidden mechanics of how humans actually learn digital skills and why our traditional, highly scalable education models are failing us so completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Plus, how one man turned his own profound frustration into this socially conscious support ecosystem. Okay, let's unpack this. To really understand why this specific academy is structured the way it is, we have to start at the founder's origin story.
Because, like many great systemic overhauls, this entire methodology was born out of intense personal frustration.
Yes. So the letter points out that Murty's initial goal had absolutely nothing to do with building a business. He wasn't trying to start an academy or a digital marketing agency or anything like that.
No, he had a very specific, intimate motivation. He simply wanted to learn how to use computers so he could create PowerPoint presentations for his young daughter.
Right. The letter specifically mentions he wanted to use the instant sitta method to train her.
Yeah, the infant sitta method.
And for those unfamiliar, the instant sitta method is a traditional, specialized framework aimed at accelerating early childhood learning and development. Murty wanted to adapt this visually for his daughter using presentation slides.
Which is such a great, singular, highly motivated fatherly goal,
Totally. So to achieve it, he decides to join an MS Office class near his home. And he chose this specific class solely because the teacher offered early morning sessions, which happened to fit his schedule.
But even just, walk in, pay his tuition, and take a seat in the back row.
No, he laid down a very specific, totally non-negotiable condition for his enrollment.
He essentially told the instructor, I will pay whatever fee you require, but I have one absolute condition. Whenever I encounter doubts or get stuck, you must clarify them for me instantly.
Which is just such an audacious demand to make of an instructor.
It really is.
But it immediately gets at the heart of the educational problem we were just discussing. I mean, as I read that, I couldn't help but think about how we usually treat software classes. We treat them like asynchronous information dumps.
Oh, entirely.
It's sort of like someone handing you a beautifully printed, highly detailed map of a city you have never visited, right?
Yeah.
The map is technically accurate. The information is fundamentally sound.
Sure.
The teacher stands at the front of the room and points at the map. But the second you take a wrong turn, or the interface updates and a street is suddenly closed, you are totally lost.
Yeah, just stuck.
Exactly. The printed map cannot talk back to you. What you actually need in that moment of confusion is a GPS. You need a system that recognizes you took a wrong turn, recalculates your route in real time, and says, stop, turn around here.
That's a really sharp analogy.
Thanks. But I also have to wonder, was demanding instant real-time doubt clarification in a group, early morning computer class, even a mathematically realistic expectation to begin with.
Well, no, in a traditional classroom model, it is a mathematical impossibility. I mean, a teacher cannot freeze the entire curriculum for a room of 30 students every time one individual hits a technical snag. The syllabus would literally never advance. But what's fascinating here is that Murty's unrealistic demand actually pinpoints a massive flaw in modern adult education.
How so?
Well, he later realized his demand couldn't be met because traditional classrooms fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the subject matter.
Wait, but isn't software essentially just a set of fixed, logical rules? I mean, you click File, then you click Save. The interface is static. It seems like a traditional declarative lecture should technically work if the student just, pays close attention to the sequence of steps being taught.
See, that assumes the learning environment is perfectly sterile, which it rarely is.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to treat tech skills as a singular subject to be memorized, much like memorizing historical dates or chemical formulas.
Oh, I see.
We rely on declarative knowledge learning by listening. But interacting with the computer requires procedural knowledge. It's learning by doing. It is an inherently messy process of trying, failing, experimenting, and continuously asking questions.
Yeah.
When you hit a roadblock, a massive psychological shift happens. Your brain immediately switches from its primary task, which is learning the software concept, to a secondary task, which is troubleshooting an error.
Which completely drains your mental battery. You aren't really learning anymore, you are just fighting the machine.
Precisely. The cognitive load just spikes. Troubleshooting requires a completely different type of mental bandwidth. And if you don't have someone there to instantly guide you out of that troubleshooting phase, your cognitive bandwidth depletes, frustration peaks, and you just abandon the task.
Like the digital graveyard we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And because the traditional classroom was structurally incapable of accommodating his need for continuous synchronous troubleshooting, Murty ended up having to buy his own computer. Yeah, he bought it and forced himself through the solitary struggle of learning by trial and error at home. And the friction of that solitary struggle became the direct catalyst for the radical model he built years later.
Right, because fast forward a few years, and the letter details how Murty transitions from being a frustrated student to a teacher himself. He begins teaching computer skills to local businessmen.
Yeah.
And when he is standing on the other side of the desk, he doesn't replicate the lecture model he experienced. He vividly remembers the paralysis of hitting a tiny technical roadblock and having to wait days for the next scheduled class.
Just to get an answer that takes 5 seconds to explain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's maddening.
He recognizes that most training programs are fundamentally incomplete. They deliver lessons, but they actively withhold support.
Yes.
So Murty makes a crucial pedagogical pivot. He stops viewing his job as simply delivering an hour of instruction. Instead, he designs a comprehensive support ecosystem that remains active for the entire duration of the course.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because when Murty uses the word support, he does not just mean, I will answer questions about the syllabus during office hours.
No, not at all.
He means he offered ongoing aggressive support via phone calls, text messages, and screen sharing. And the letter explicitly details that this support went way beyond the software he was supposedly teaching.
It really did.
He helped these students with general troubleshooting, advising them on gadget purchases, managing their software licenses, basic hardware support, and even general software maintenance.
Quite the list.
I mean, I have to push back gently on this approach. Isn't advising a student on what laptop to buy and managing their software licenses crossing a massive boundary? That isn't teaching anymore. That is effectively becoming an on-call IT department.
Well, from a traditional, strictly academic standpoint, yes, it shatters every boundary of the teacher-student dynamic.
Right. A university professor is certainly not going to remote into your desktop to help you renew your Microsoft Office license.
Never. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, this was actually a highly empathetic, brilliant strategy calibrated exactly for his specific demographic.
Okay, explain that. Because to a casual observer, offering that level of bespoke IT support just sounds like a fast track to severe professional burnout.
You have to consider the psychological profile of who he was teaching. These were local businessmen in an era where digital adoption was becoming mandatory, but they were certainly not digital natives.
True.
For them, technology is a monolithic, intimidating barrier to their livelihood. When a non-digital native is learning these skills from scratch, the conceptual boundary between I don't understand how this Excel formula works and my computer's operating system needs an update does not exist.
That makes so much sense.
Right. To them, it is all just the computer isn't working.
I don't compartmentalize the friction. Like, if the hardware fails, they can't do the software homework. The learning completely halts either way.
Exactly. By stepping over that traditional boundary, Murty gave these businessmen the one thing they desperately lacked: a single, reliable point of dependency.
Wow.
In a normal scenario, encountering a hardware issue means hunting down a repair shop. Encountering a software license issue means calling customer service. Encountering a syllabus issue means waiting for the tutor.
Which is exhausting.
Navigating all those different avenues causes immense digital fatigue. Murty collapsed all of those roles into one phone number. He systematically eliminated every possible logistical and technical excuse that could prevent them from learning.
He essentially became a hybrid mentor technician.
That's a great way to put it.
And the letter revealed that he took this exact high-touch philosophy from his days training local businessmen, applied it to the modern digital marketing landscape, and hardwired it directly into the current Antaryami VA Academy's virtual assistant course.
Yeah, he successfully packaged that bespoke support ecosystem into a structured offering. But to do so, he had to make some very deliberate choices about scale.
Let's look at the actual offer he outlines for prospective students in the letter. It states, the course requires a 5,000 rupee monthly fee.
Right.
But Murty is incredibly explicit about what that money actually buys. It is not just a fee for accessing recorded lessons. The fee covers a full month of highly active support and guidance. Students receive daily support during the course and immediate clarification of doubts without waiting days, utilizing texts, screen sharing, and voice calls.
It's very hands-on.
So what does this all mean? Think about the last online course you bought. Who are you really paying?
Often a massive corporation.
Exactly. In most modern e-learning environments, think of massive platforms like Coursera or Udemy, the model is built on infinite scalability. The instructor records a video once, and the platform sells that same video to 100,000 people. The marginal cost of adding a new student is zero.
Zero.
Murty's model is the exact opposite. This is artisanal education.
Yeah, the modern e-learning model views the curriculum as the product. The creator's labor ends the moment the videos are uploaded and the credit card clears.
Right.
Murty's model argues that the curriculum is merely the prerequisite. The actual product being sold is the access to the mentor's time.
And the math of how he manages that time is where the rubber meets the road.
Definitely.
The letter states that he guarantees 15 minutes of dedicated personal support daily per student outside of the live classroom sessions. To maintain this promise without compromising quality, he artificially caps his personal support roster at around 30 students.
Which means he is committing roughly 7.5 hours a day just to support.
Just to support.
That artificial cap on enrollment is precisely why the offering holds such high value. Let's unpack the core value proposition here. The student paying that 5,000 rupee fee is not paying for the raw information.
Right, because that's everywhere.
Exactly. The technical skills required to be a virtual assistant managing email clients, coordinating digital calendars, executing basic SEO are heavily commoditized. You can find high-quality tutorials for all of those tasks for free on YouTube.
True.
What the student is paying for is the unstucking.
Which goes back to the cognitive load we discussed earlier. Time and momentum are the learner's most valuable assets.
When you hit a glitch while following a free YouTube tutorial, you might lose 3 days and all your motivation trying to diagnose why your screen doesn't match the instructor's screen.
Been there.
With Murty's model, you encounter the glitch, you send a text or share your screen, he diagnoses the issue instantly, and your momentum is preserved.
That's huge.
He explicitly states his purpose in the letter: students should never feel stuck and alone. That specific feeling of isolation is the primary driver, of course, abandonment. He is selling a structural antidote to that isolation.
But if he is intentionally limiting his enrollment to just 30 students to maintain this artisanal quality of support, it forces us to ask, what is the actual goal of this business?
Right.
Because clearly it is not maximizing revenue. A profit-maximizing entrepreneur would build a funnel, sell thousands of passive access codes, and outsource the support to an AI chatbot.
Without a doubt.
Murty is actively capping his own income. And the letter reveals that the end game of this academy isn't actually profit at all.
No, the letter introduces the concept of the social bridge. And this is the moment the document really transitions from outlining a compelling pedagogical model into revealing a profound social mission.
According to the text, the Antaryami VA Academy was not created solely as an educational business.
Oh.
Its larger mandate is to build sustainable livelihood opportunities through a collective called the Antaryami VA Network,
Yeah.
and the revenue generated by these course fees. It is actively channeled to fund major social initiatives. Specifically, the letter details plans for a future hospice and palliative care center, as well as providing ongoing operational support for the Charles Susila Old Age Home.
It is a staggering revelation to find tucked inside a marketing document for a software skills course.
It completely reframes the narrative.
Yeah.
We normally categorize learning MS Office or taking a virtual assistant course as a dry, corporate resume padding chore.
Right, something you endure just to get ahead.
Yeah, purely to bump your hourly rate or land a slightly better remote job. But Murty's philosophy radically transforms this incredibly mundane act of learning keyboard shortcuts into a direct vehicle for community service.
It's incredible.
He summarizes his worldview by stating that digital skills should serve as a bridge, moving a person from confusion to confidence, from dependency to dignity, and ultimately from earning solely for oneself to serving others.
This raises an important question about how we structure our modern lives and economies. Currently, the modern economy completely separates our educational pursuits from our societal contributions.
How do you mean?
Well, we view education as a fiercely individualistic endeavor, right?
Yeah.
You acquire a skill, you leverage that skill to secure employment, and you amass wealth for yourself.
Right.
Societal contribution like philanthropy or community service is viewed as a secondary activity, something you might engage in much later in life, provided you have surplus time or capital.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Murty's model shatters that dichotomy by intricately linking the two from day one. When a student pays their tuition to learn virtual assistance, they aren't merely investing in their own human capital, they are actively laying the bricks for a hospice center. They are directly sustaining an old age home.
Wow.
The act of personal advancement becomes simultaneously an act of civic service.
Think about how that fundamentally alters the psychological stakes of the learning process.
Yeah.
Go back to that Tuesday night scenario where you are stuck on a difficult software concept, your cognitive load is maxed out, and you want to quit.
Yeah.
If you are learning in a vacuum, purely for your own resume, it is incredibly easy to rationalize quitting. You tell yourself, I don't really need to know this anyway.
Sure.
But if you know that your participation in this specific ecosystem is actively funding end-of-life care for a vulnerable person, your threshold for frustration changes.
Oh, entirely.
You are going to push through that technical snag. You are going to send that text message, share your screen, and let Murty guide you through it.
It creates a powerful community of purpose. The enrollees are no longer just passive consumers of digital information. They are active participants in a deeply human ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it brings the entire narrative beautifully full circle. I mean, Murty's initial foray into the digital world began simply because he wanted to create something for his daughter.
Right.
It began with an intimate act of care. Decades later, the entire academy he built is still structurally anchored to that exact same principle of care for the individual student, through relentless daily support and care for the broader society, through tangible philanthropic initiatives.
What an incredibly rich narrative to pull from a single marketing letter.
Really is.
Let's briefly synthesize the journey we've mapped out today. We examined the story of a father whose simple desire to make a presentation for his daughter exposed a critical flaw in how we teach adults.
Right.
He realized that traditional asynchronous learning fails because digital skills require synchronous troubleshooting. Learners need a safe, immediate space to fail and ask questions without draining their cognitive bandwidth.
Exactly.
So in response, he bypassed the highly lucrative, infinitely scalable e-learning model to build a high-touch, fundamentally unscalable virtual assistant academy that focuses entirely on daily, artisanal support. And perhaps most importantly, he utilizes the economic engine of that academy to fund end-of-life care and elder support, proving in real time that digital literacy can serve as a literal bridge to human dignity.
It is a remarkable holistic synthesis of behavioral psychology, empathetic business design, and profound social responsibility. It challenges the listener to critically evaluate not just how they learn, but why they learn.
It absolutely does. And that brings us to our final thought for you listening right now. The next time you are attempting to master a complex new skill, or you are staring at a piece of software feeling completely overwhelmed and you are tempted to just close the laptop and surrender.
Don't do it.
Right. I want you to step back and ask yourself a structural question. Are you failing because the material is genuinely beyond your intellectual capacity? Or are you simply failing because you are trying to learn in a vacuum, entirely isolated, without your own dedicated support ecosystem?
Great question.
Because, as Murty's philosophy proves, nobody should ever have to feel stuck and alone while attempting to better themselves. Thank you so much for joining us in this deep dive. We will see you next time.